going to do a little bit of review. So this is the second part. So I am looking at reducing things to lowest terms. So let's think about other things that we have done in the past where we've reduced to lowest terms. So let's look at prime factorization. Okay, so if I had, this is my rate, 30 to 36. Okay, if I wanted to reduce this, one way that I can do that, I need to find the prime factorization here. So I go 2 times 15, right? This is 3 times 5. So 30, the prime factorization would be here would be 2 times 3 times 5, right? Okay, and for 36, it would be 6 times 6. And because this is a square number, right? So this would be 2 times 3 and 2 times 3. So this would be 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. Then I can look at what numbers we have in common to find the greatest common factor, right? Two numbers that multiply together. So to equal that number, so I know that 6 can divide into both of those numbers. 6 can divide into 30 and 6 can divide into 36. So I know the greatest common factor between those two numbers is 6. I can also do it by going 1 times 30, remember this? 2 times 15, 3 times 10. I'm not going to fit everything in here. 4 doesn't, 5 doesn't, and then 6 times 5. So I'm just going to make this bigger. 3, 5, 6. This would be 10. Of course, it's not going to fit. 15, 30. Okay. All right. This would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and then I'm at my middle. So what times 4? That's 9. Times 3 would be, that would be 1, and that would be 12. And then 2 would be 15, 18, and that would be 36. Okay, now I can go through and I can find my greatest common factor, which is 6, right? So I could do either of those two ways if I wanted to. All right, how does this help me? Okay, first I'm going to show you this. So another way that we've learned to reduce things into its lowest terms, is by using fractions. So these are two methods that you could possibly use. You don't have to use you're going to use whichever one you're more comfortable with. All right. So reducing, I'm thinking to myself, what's the greatest common factor between 2 and 10s is obviously 2. So because 2 can divide into both of them, so I divide the top and the bottom by 2 in order to reduce it into its lowest terms, which is 1/5. That is a 1. Okay, greatest common factor between 4 and 14 is 2 again. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and that's 7. Okay, greatest common factor between these two is 5. So that's 6, and this is 7. And here it would be 3, so that would be 3 and 4. So that is reduced to lowest terms, right? So I can use either of these two methods to help me. All right, so reducing a ratio to lowest terms, I think about the greatest common factor. Okay, so what is the greatest common factor between 2 and 10? Okay, that is 2. So I divide both sides by 2. And so this ratio in lowest terms is going to be 1 to 5. Okay, looking down here, same thing. It doesn't matter if they're switched, right? For looking. Okay, I divide, the greatest common factor is 2. I'm going to divide both sides by 2, so it'll be 5 to 1. Okay, over here, the greatest common factor between these two is 2, so I divide both by 2, and so this would be 2 to 7. All right, and again, same thing. It doesn't matter if they're reversed. This would be 7 to 2. All right, so thinking again, I am looking for the greatest common factor, or I can reduce them by thinking about what their prime numbers are, right? So I can use those prime numbers. So if you're not sure, you can use those techniques of the factor tree or what multiplies by what to find that greatest common factor. Here I know it's 5. So this is going to be 6 divided by 5, right? And this is going to be 7. And over here it would be just 7 and 6. Okay, dividing by the greatest common factor here, this one is going to be 3 divided by 3. And this is going to be 3 to 4. Okay, and same thing, it doesn't matter that they're backwards. They're still using the greatest common factor, and so it'll be 4 to 3. All right, so proportions that require reducing to lowest terms. So why would we need to use the lowest terms? Well, if I'm going to compare these two, okay, I'm going to make sure that one will divide into the other evenly. And if I'm looking at this, 10 does not divide into 25 evenly. So the answer is no, it does not, right? So I would need to change this to lowest terms. Okay, if I'm looking over here, 4 does. So I don't need to reduce it to lowest terms in order to find out what this number is here, because I know that I multiply by 4. So I could just multiply by 4 and I know the answer is 40. Here, I can't get an even number, so I'm going to reduce this to lowest terms. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. So I divide this side by 5 and this side by 5. This gives me a ratio of 6 to 5. So now this can multiply by 2. So I know I multiplied by 2. So the answer here is going to be 12 to 10. And that's the answer there. Okay, I'm going to get you to try these. So some of them you will have to reduce to lowest terms and some of them you will not. So please pause and then come back. All right. Okay, so looking here, obviously I need to reduce this to lowest terms. So the greatest common multiple between these two is 25. So 50 divided by 25 is 2. 75 divided by 25 is 3. Okay, so now I've multiplied that by 8. So I need to multiply the 2 by 8. So that is going to be 16. Okay, if I'm comparing these two, I have multiplied by 2. So all I need to do is multiply by 2. So that is 8. I definitely need to figure out what the lowest common multiple is here. So I know it's 6, but what if you tried 3, right? So if I divided both sides by 3, okay, that would give me 10, and this would give me 4. Now, this isn't in lowest terms. It does multiply in, but pretend it didn't. And I notice that I can still reduce it further, okay? Then do it again. You would find that 2 can still divide into both, and you would reduce it further. Okay, so if you're not in lowest terms and you thought it was the greatest common multiple is 3, you can still keep going. All right, so I'd multiply 5 by 10, so I multiply 2 by 10, which would give me 20. All right, 6 obviously doesn't divide evenly in there, so I'm going to reduce it. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3, and then multiply by 5, which is 15. This would multiply by 3, so I'm going to multiply by 3, which is 18, so that's 78. And again, this does not go in evenly. I can divide 11, so we divide both sides by 11, so that is 1 and 11. and then I just know I multiply by 5. Okay, again, this does not, so we're going to reduce. So this is 3 and 5. Now I multiply by 5, and that is 15. Okay, so I'm hoping you did them, and I'm hoping you're checking all your answers to make sure that you got the same as me. If I messed up, let me know. All right. Please make sure that you finish up the worksheet. We're going to be going over some of the questions in class.